How do you get famous? Some people get famous by doing things. Well, she got famous by actually failing to do things. In fact, I imagine that you could probably go to any country in the world and mention her name, and there'd be somebody there who knew her, had have heard of her. But yet, it was famous. Her fame came not from what she accomplished, but it was her failure to accomplish things that really made her famous. April 15th, 1912, the Titanic failed to do its one simple little thing, cross the ocean. And everybody's heard of it. Oddly enough, that same day, there was an order put into a shipyard in, that's not the Titanic, by the way. But it is the one we need. An order was put into a shipyard for the building of two boats, 175 and 176. Number 175 is pictured here. She would be christened the Medina. Not quite as famous as the Titanic, but she at least managed to get through her maiden voyage without sinking. In fact, she made a few voyages. Her job was to transport not the rich and the powerful and the elegant like the Titanic, but onions. And would travel from East Texas around Florida. Apparently the Gulf of Mexico doesn't have that many icebergs, so safe travels. And up to New York to bring onions. And did that for a number of years until Medina was actually drafted into the U.S. Army. Greetings. First World War broke out and the Army needed a way of transporting material to its troops in France. And Medina was part of that. Medina was in fact part of a convoy of 3 ships that were traveling and were attacked by German U-boats. The other 2 vessels sunk. The Medina made it through unscathed and would return, well, not really decorated, didn't get any Purple Hearts or anything like that, but went back to its onion hauling business and went on that for quite a while. In fact, would actually get drafted again, this time by the United States Navy, for the Second World War. And the Navy would outfit it not to haul onions or guns, but to actually transport troops from America to England in preparation for the liberation of occupied Europe. Afterwards, the Medina kind of, fell into a bit of disrepair. Thank you. Not looking too good there. And was set for auction in the early 60s. And it was expected that a breaker company, they were going to break her up into pieces parts, that her value no longer as a ship, but in little parts, scrap. When all of a sudden, an Italian cruise line swooped in and hit the winning bid and launched her as the SS Medina. Oops. Nope, not Roma, sorry. Thank you. Yeah, go to that one with the pictures. That's kind of the Roma with her passengers on board. They retrofitted her to become a passenger liner. She mostly carried American tourists all around the Italian coastline until, she was slated again to be broken up when she was bought. If you go back one now, please. Thank you. Here we are. Here she is as the famous doulos. She was purchased by a Christian organization called Gute Bücher Allah. Gute Bücher Allah. Those of you who know German can translate that. Poor pronunciation of Good Books for All. So it was a Christian ministry of delivering books to needy children throughout the world. Throughout her 102 years of service, she had quite an adventure, quite a life, did quite a lot. But it was just a tiny little boat, and certainly not anywhere near as famous as the Titanic. And perhaps until today, you've probably never heard of either the Medina, the Roma, or the Doulos, but you'd all heard of the Titanic. but throughout its career, it accomplished quite a lot. Over 100 countries that it visited. Hi, people. 100 countries. Thank you. Numbers. She's actually got a lot on her plate. I've been seeing her because she's got to scurry back to the sound booth and fix problems. So we'll give her slack on this one. And over 600 ports that she's visited, 650 some odd thousand nautical miles, 358,000 nautical miles. I'm not good with math here. Over 1.5 million books distributed to children, and over 21 million visitors on her decks. Simple, humble little ship, and accomplished quite a bit. God uses the simple and the humble to accomplish quite a bit. A young boy with his lunch, but in faith comes forward, trusting and believing that Jesus can make it happen. Jesus wasn't born into a family of wealth and power. He wasn't born in Rome to Tiberius and Lucilla. He was born to Joseph, a carpenter, his betrothed Mary, in a backwater town. Abraham and Sarah become parents of a great nation. We're foreigners traveling in a distant land. Moses, the deliverer, was a slave child. The disciples didn't stand out as anybody being great. Simple, regular, everyday people. Yet in faith, can accomplish a lot. God calls each of us in various ways, with the gifts that He has given us, to use those in service. Trust in faith, and things can happen. That we can change lives around us, and we can bring the good news of God's love and mercy to those in need. Have you ever thought that you're too insignificant to be of any use to God? We all can be little Medinas, Romas, and Douloses. Simple, humble, everyday people of life who in faith can do great things. So look around and see those in need and the needs around you. And perhaps God is calling you to trust Him and to act. Amen.